and welcome to yet another beautiful and exciting episode of the NGOCC podcast. Remember, we come your way every Friday at exactly 15 hours to bring you different issues that are affecting you in your community, but also to try and find a solution to some of the problems that we are currently experiencing. My name is Chivesa Cecilia Mungulube, and I am your host. I'm so excited today because we get to chat with a very interesting woman. I think she's done quite a number of things. You're probably familiar with her and you've seen her on TV. If not, you must have read about her. And I'm quite excited to host her as we'll be discussing a very sensitive topic that has now become very common in our society. Today, I get to interact with Ms Judith Mwila, who is the founder of Families and Nations. Good afternoon and welcome to the NGOCC podcast.
Good afternoon, Cecilia, and good afternoon, all of those that are listening in and watching us today.
I'm excited to have you.
I'm very happy to be here, actually.
Yeah, so today we are discussing a very sensitive topic, which is incest. And of course, we will relate it to gender-based violence, but you will agree with me that recently we've seen, it's actually still happening right now,
yes,
an increase in the number of rape and defilement cases. And the perpetrators are actually parents, brothers, cousins. And there's always been this notion that has been going on social media, and even in jokes, and sometimes even in conversations that we tend to have, cousin Nindio. I'm sure you've come across that statement. Yeah, you find people having a conversation and they just say cousin Nindio, like it's okay for you to get into intimate relations with your cousin. And so today we table incest. But before we dive into the discussion, I think I'll just allow you to introduce yourself so that people can just know who Madam Judith Mwila is.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. So I am Judith Mwila. I am the founder of the organization that is popularly known as Families Are Nations. And as you can hear from that name, we are family-focused. Families Are Nations is actually celebrating 10 years next year.
Nice.
We are happy to say that we have impacted a lot of families. Our interventions are family-focused, as I said. We are looking at the family as an effective agent of behavior change. And in some circles, people will recognize me as Auntie Judy because I go by that stage name most of the time. Yeah, but I'm happy to be here, and the discussion from what you have said is very passionate to my heart, things to do with family and that particular issue. Let's see how we can do justice to it today.
Right. Yeah. So what has driven your passion into working in this particular trajectory that focuses on family, that deals with various issues that are affecting family?
Yeah, so I'm a social scientist, and specifically I'm a behavior change advocate. And when I founded Families and Nations, my focus really was to ensure that this institution should help to strengthen families and also to engage members of the family in a very positive way. And obviously to ensure that when you have strong families, you've got a strong community, you have got a strong nation, and the world would be a better place. We have a lot of issues that I think all of them border on the strength of the family. For us here, even as we are conducting this conversation, we have to come from a background that is supportive of what we are doing, and that also is a safe space for us. Especially, let me talk about how children must be safe in the family space. A child is brought up in the family. We are all born, we are all coming out of some family arrangement. And so, all in all, the family is supposed to be the best space for everyone. Coming from there, going back there. So that's how Families and Nations came to be. We look at various interventions that actually focus on the family. As I said, we do mentorship, we do skills development, family development activities, we provide counseling, family counseling, child counseling. We also provide skills development, empowerment programs. We do corporate family development activities, so a lot, but all of them sitting in the family system.
Very interesting. Ma'am, allow me to mention that your work is actually appreciated.
Thank you so much.
And just like I was saying before we even began the conversations, I've read a lot of stories in the paper and also in the news. But then we dive back to the topic of discussion today. And perhaps we will begin from defining what incest is before we begin the conversation.
Yes, so I'll define incest, first of all, in a layman's language. Yeah, so if we are too technical, some people might still feel.
Yeah.
So incest in a layman's language is intimate relationship, or shall we use the word sex, with a relative. That will obviously interpret into incest. A father having carnal knowledge of his daughter, a mother having carnal knowledge with the son, an uncle with a niece, a cousin with a cousin, and which I'm sad to say that in our socialization as Africans, and I think that in some of our tribes here in Zambia, people have actually accepted that as normal. Yeah. I know of certain couples that have actually allowed cousins to marry each other, all in the guise of traditionally being acceptable. And I want to say that whatever the reason, whether you say in your tradition is acceptable, it is wrong. Because according to the Zambian law, actually incest is a crime. So incest, no matter who does it, how they do it, it is a crime.
Let's pick it up from there. Do you think that because of the traditions and the norms that cousins are allowed to have sexual relations amongst themselves is maybe to some extent what has led to the rampant increase in rape and defilement?
I would say yes and no.
Okay.
Because yes, partially because for those people that say, and this is very sad, because you find that in a family, a cousin rapes, a male cousin rapes a female cousin. And when the news gets to be known within the family, they say, this is okay. It's a silence. Yes, it's a silence. Yeah. And why they say that is so nobody talks about it as an issue. And worse still, it may be allowed to continue. And those people who have children. So really, at the end of the day, those children are a product of incest. And it means that in that particular family, they have accepted this bad behavior, which is against the law, by the way. And sometimes I feel very angered at the way certain families, when such a thing happens, they tend to change the law. They say, like, in the Eastern Province, I know of two tribes that say a cousin is a wife. And they allow it to happen, and people live and grow old married to their cousins. It is not a good thing. It is not a good foundation for the children that are coming from that relationship. But also when I say it's yes and no, is it a reason for the crime that has become? Perhaps some people have done it with that perception, but I think that now we have information. So we know that the law is against that. We know that the law of Zambia, according even to the constitution, that a father sleeping with his daughter is wrong. It is against the law. So we must not tolerate and we must not accept it because our tradition accepts it. And so I want to say, no, it is not the reason. On the other hand, it should not be a reason for all these defilements that we are seeing. An uncle should not defile his niece because he feels that it is okay in our tradition. First of all, the niece would be a child. And because the cases that we have seen in the most recent past, the children are less than 15. They are young children, even less than 10 years. Even if, let's assume the tradition was acceptable, isn't that a child? That is the issue. It's about child protection. It's about protecting a child who is less than 10 years, whether that child is your cousin, your niece, or whatever. So I am saying that defilement should not be an excuse of the tradition or of the acceptable practice in a certain tradition or culture. It should not be accepted. It is a crime. People who are saying that traditionally, if it's acceptable, I think must know that that tradition changes now with the law. So what we need to do, and what we are doing as Families and Nations, is to sensitize people to understand that tradition or culture or no tradition or culture, the law is the law. So according to the law, I don't think tradition stands. The only thing that actually overturns tradition and culture is the law. So we need to stop that now. And anyone who is allowing, and that's why as an institution, as a country, we need to work together, combined efforts. Our traditional leaders, who are the custodians of most of these traditional practices, must know that this cannot be accepted. whether it's in the lowest of the traditional setup, it must not be accepted. So anyone who defiles a child, believing that it was acceptable in their tradition, must know now that it is a crime. Whether it's traditional, whether it's culturally right in their setup, it is wrong.
Mrs. Mwila, let's talk about breaking the silence, okay? Mm-hmm. There are instances where a cousin attempts to rape you, okay, and you decide to open up about it, maybe to an auntie or to family members, and everyone is quiet about it.
Actually, I will tell you about a couple of cases that I have handled myself specifically, where it's that person may want to come out and talk about it. Actually, may disclose maybe to the mother or to the grandmother, even to the auntie or to the father. Like cousin so-and-so tried to do this with me. And the parents then say, no, okay, don't talk about it to other people. We will deal with it at family level. Meaning that they have shielded a crime. That person who tried to rape that girl will try it on another girl. This girl could be assertive enough to talk about it, maybe to reveal, but there will be a girl who will be so scared or who will be shushed so much that she is not able to talk to anyone about it. What will happen to that girl is that she will succumb, she will be humiliated, and actually a crime will have been committed. Also, the other side of the story is grandparents.
Yes.
The grandparents in our setups in the traditional arena sometimes are saying, mzukuru wanu ni mkazi wanu, abanarume wako. We've heard all those things. So I think all in all, I want to say that this is why, as Families Are Nations, we've got a program now of re-messaging a lot of things, a lot of traditional sayings, where someone calls my grandfather calls me mkazi wanga. These are the things that promote family-based, gender-based violence, which is actually hidden for years, because the grandfather will defile the child as a granddaughter, and they are saying this is normal. In another tradition also, there are grandparents, uncles, who are allowed to test the girls. How can they know that the girl has become of age or is now old enough to get married? They must have sex with that girl. These are very, very detrimental and bad traditional practices that must end. How can they end? Is the silence must be broken. In the family system, people who see such things must start talking to say, in my tradition, this happens. In our family, this has happened. And people have gotten away with it. It could have been in the past that it happened and you kept quiet and people have gotten away with it. Now it must be revealed. And people who have been victims, and I want to tell you that as Families Are Nations, we are actually going back in the time and asking people to tell their stories. Last week, we had an event, Muzima in Abanja, which we, as Families Are Nations, we were conducting at Mundawanga. And one old lady came out and said, do you know, I didn't know that my grandfather sleeping with me was wrong. Because in our tradition, he was allowed to do that because I am like his second wife or his third wife from her grandmother. We were all like, really? So these are things that have been happening in families. They are GBV at its best. Violence against girls and women going on and as if they were normal. So I want to urge people that it has never been right. And people must come out in the open.
Very true. You're watching the NGOCC podcast. In case you have just joined us or in case you've just opened this video, we are discussing incest. And of course, I am chatting with Mrs. Judith Mwila, who is the founder for Families Are Nations. Madam Mwila, I came across a video recently on social media where this woman was confessing that she found her husband having sex with the child, defiling the child. And when he was approached about it, he had the guts to tell the wife that Suzy batu uyu muntu ni mkazi mzako. So first when he was caught in the act, he flee, came back home after the wife had reported the issue. And then when he came back, the wife was asking him about it before she reported him to the police. And the response she got was, Suzy bati ni mkazi mzako uyu.
Mwana. So you see, it's that kind of audacity that people can gather around themselves to speak like that confidently as a man whose daughter is the one he has defiled. I was very sad to hear that story. I followed it, yes. I also saw the video. And, that is a space where, as Zambians, as women now, we need to stand against that stance where a man can feel he has a right to do anything against a woman or a girl because he's a man. So that is why our program, and I know that NGOCC is championing the program of gender transformative approaches. People must understand that being a man does not mean you are above the law and you are above everything. You can decide to, there's another very annoying saying where I heard in the Eastern Province that mwana wa mzako nchakudia.
That too.
Very annoying things like that. And these are you remember when I talked about remessaging, and I say that as Families and Nations, we have realized that some of the messages that are going around within our cultural setups, they are very detrimental. They are destroying our well-being. Why? Because they are allowed. A man being called like and as a wife you sit there and accepting that a man's infidelity is okay with me. We need to change those things.
And that has actually been fed in most of us young people.
Yes, and it is okay.
Yes, as you are growing up, because before you even go through the traditional teachings of this is what marriage has in store for you. As you are growing up, you are coming across those issues because I have been introduced to that theory
before you are even married.
Before I'm even married,
exactly.
There's that exposure of when you get married, even if your husband cheats on you,
it's okay,
it's fine because he's a man. That's how men are, and I think it is those small notions that even the small boys that are now growing and the small girls, yes,
they are picking.
So the girls are being taught it's okay for a man to cheat on you,
and the boys are being taught it's okay.
You can have multiple sexual partners.
It's okay for you as a boy. So this is the reason that I don't know if I mentioned this also, as Families and Nations, we have developed a reference manual which is specifically dealing with messages. What messages are we giving our young people? What messages are we giving our girls at the point of adolescence when they reach the puberty? The boys, what you just said, if a boy is being told, don't cry, it's okay for you to have multiple relationships. You are a man, telling these kinds of things. We need to stop the effects of them. And what you just said is actually very true. A lot of young people, when I'm mentoring young people of your age and maybe younger, and you ask them one simple question, what sort of a marriage would you like to have? And they say, I don't even want to get married because I saw my mother struggling in the marriage. My mother is being told what your dad has done is okay because he's a man. So this is a very, very bad way of raising young people, because even within the home, a father and a mother must live a life which should actually give the children intention to go into marriage, not to reject marriage. Why they will reject it? Because they see the father abusing the mother and the family has accepted. They even see when the two families meet and they're saying, no, this is what we are saying. As Families and Nations, a good family must have a good husband and a good wife, and the children will be good thereafter. Children are empty buckets when they are born. What they learn and what they assume, the influence that they see is what they see more is what is influential in their mind, in their lives. When they grow up, the men are going to feel like I'm a man, and the power struggle will be completely different. So I want to say that we need to watch these things. And in our reference manual, actually, we are referring to things like that. This message is wrong. It has lived the test of time. And a lot of women today are old, even in their 70s, and they've lived that. Like, and even
the marriage counselors, when they are counseling you, it's one thing that they are keen on stressing. Say, don't leave just because he has cheated on you.
There is a saying that Mkazi salonga via. There's even a song at Mchembere solonga via. So because the husband is womanizing, don't pack and go. What we are saying is that this is a different age. Those women who succeeded in that time with that teaching, I think today they will tell you that we didn't think this was an abusive thing. It was okay to do. That's why a man was allowed to have 10 other women, and you are still staying there. Kabidi, you have 10 children. No, you are living in his house. No, you are the one, you have the Mrs. Mwila, so there is no other Mrs. Mwila out there. All those kinds of, very abusive actions.
Don't worry about the one that's outside because you're the one in his home.
But you are the one who is going to die a bad death because that man, and you are suffering, and your emotional self is injured permanently. So I think that as we all stand here, looking at the abuses that have affected our lives, the lives of our women, how many women have died in abuse, emotionally being abused. And I'm not talking about, because a lot of people say, abuse is where you lose your eye or you lose your teeth, someone beats you, blood comes out. No, emotional abuse is actually worse than what you see as a wound. Because the wound, you can just say, they hit me with a stone or something. But the emotional abuse, you can't even measure. And someone is dying inside. They go into depression. They die a terrible death. I think that it's a time in our country now. All of us should speak against the violence against girls, against women, against boys, against men. We need a peaceful, environment around us. Violence is so perpetrated because people have no information. Some people don't even understand what it is. So it is for us, actually, I want to encourage everyone out there, whoever you are, wherever you are, in your family, you are an advocate of ending gender-based violence, because what you say should matter. Tell the young girls, when uncle touches you there, don't allow him. When daddy touches you there, don't allow him. And in the family, talking about incest, there's a lot of respect that is generated around. So even when a father is touching a girl, the girl is putting respect first, saying, Nibatate, ningakane branch. Or how can I scream? Yes. This is my dad. And also the thing of, how can I see my dad behind bars? How can I see my husband behind bars? The latest case where 3 women married to a man who is actually, that man, he's an animal or worse than an animal. And
the fact that they went to say, release our husband, you can get our child.
Do you see? So it's these kinds of things that we need to guard against. So in the family is where the great battle must be won. We need to teach our children. If you are a mother, you need to tell your girls, your boys, anyone who touches you here, you must report. If you can't report to me, report to someone, even to the teacher. And we are actually, as we go in the schools, mentoring young people, even as young as nursery, 3-4-year-olds, we do mentor them. We teach them. There's a song that we say, Apanipanga osanigwila. Apanipanga osanigwila. So these young children, they go back home and start singing this song. We are teaching them that no one has the right to touch their private parts, because it starts from there. First of all, the uncle touches. The next time, after touching, they tell them a story. The next thing, it's defilement. So the young children are very vulnerable, but as parents, let's take that step. As sisters, as aunties, as uncles, grandparents, let us stop teaching our children to undergo the violence, the abuse that you underwent. Because at the time you were undergoing that abuse, there was no voice against gender-based violence. As I told you earlier, for me, the family is the first school. What we teach, what we give, the information we give, we feed the children from home is very critical. And I don't believe that any parent will want their children to be defiled. So dressing as an issue in its own, I think that there are certain cases of defilement that have happened to a 3-day-old baby.
Who is in diapers.
Who can't even defend itself.
Exactly.
Is just coming from the hospital, has just been birthed. Someone has defiled such a child. Can we talk about dressing at that point? I think that let us be reasonable. There are certain cases of rape that have happened where people have also said the dressing was not good. But let's go to the man. So what propels a man to rape a woman? Is it the dressing? Because a woman can walk about naked, but the man has to know his mental status about sex to be able to rape that woman. Rape is not just about what you see. It's also what you have perceived in your mind. Mm-hmm. So what indecent dressing does, I know, as an adult, as a woman, and also as a social scientist, I know that the mind is what perceives and what actually entertains a sexual act to start with. But to tell you the truth, you can control that as a man. You can control your action and your reaction to a naked woman, because as a human being, you are the only creature that has a choice. You can actually choose to do something, to do it wrong, to do the wrong thing or the right thing. So I think that for us, that is secondary. The dressing issue, yes, there are men who feel like they can't control themselves, and I want to challenge them that such men are actually, they are not normal. Because a normal man must control their feelings. Even in a marriage, when your wife has just given birth, you can't say, I want to have sex, so even in her condition, I must have sex. What I'm talking about now is that a man must be able to control how they feel and their actions, to be in charge of their actions. What we see, the defilement numbers that we have today, they are not totally as a result of dressing. A child in UTH, in a medical robe, what dressing is there to talk about? A child who is in a diaper, what dressing is there to talk about? The women that are out there wearing minis or maybe wrongly dressed, even before you rape them, you can actually talk to them. You can say, so what I'm saying is that, is then the action, is it first to rape them and then tell them you dressed wrongly? Because if you're a human being, you must be able to put up a discussion before catching a woman, or say, I'm going to rape you because you're half naked. I think that, yes, we can have an issue about dressing in some cases, but I don't think it should be a reason for raping or for defiling a child. I want to urge parents also, when people are bringing reasons like this, it means they have noticed there's something that they can use as an scapegoat. Mm-hmm. So as parents, let us train our children to dress decently. It's a family value. How we mentorship, nurturing children is a value in Zambia. It's one of the values that we need to promote. How do we nurture our children? How do we teach them? What dressing do we want? We need to teach our children, when you are dressing, this part of your body must be covered. Yes, that is, we need to do it as parents. And as women ourselves, we also need to understand the science and the biological conduct of the two sexes. And so based on that, we can train our girls, we can train our boys, because even boys also, sometimes they are not decently dressed. But I don't know how many girls or women have raped men because the men have been indecently dressed. Mm-hmm. So the truth of the matter is that there's always an advantage over the women and over the girls. However, we don't need to promote certain actions which we know people are finding excuses about. The men who have said, I've heard on the radio sometimes when there are all these call-in programs, the men who are accusing dressing and justifying defilement with dressing, I think that it is immaterial. The truth of the matter is that before you defile, is it the dressing that causes you to defile? It's because your mind has decided to have sex with a child. Whether the child is dressed or not dressed, you have decided to do it. So the point is that it's the action that you have taken. Because whether a child is naked, is that okay for you to rape that child? Just because the child is naked, is being bathed. So I want to say that we need to consider the morals, the moral standing, the moral fiber, the values that people are embracing in our country.
Madam Mwila, there are people that have survived incest and have just decided to keep quiet about it.
A lot of them.
And I feel their mental health and their mental stability has to some extent been, tampered with.
Yeah.
How do you think as society should we learn to treat maybe people that have survived incest? Maybe someone opens up to you and they tell you that they've survived incest, or they've been in a position where they were defiled by their father when they were young, but they've survived it and kept it to themselves. How should we handle incest survivors as a society?
So that's a very critical question that you've asked. First of all, there are a lot of them out there. Some of them have lived a life of shame. They are so ashamed, like they even feel like, I can't talk about it, I will just live in shame. Why have they felt like that? Is because the society considered them shameful. So we are in an era where when somebody discloses such a thing, they need help. What incest has done to those people is that it has mentally destroyed them. Spiritually, they are dirty. We are a Christian nation. So when we look at stories in the Bible of a brother who actually had incest with his sister, and the sentence was death. So it means that and even in other religions, it's not allowed. So when we look at those people in our society today, one thing is we should not stigmatize them by telling them, we are putting them in a corner where they keep on dying. Their emotional, their mental status is already injured. They need healing. They need counseling. As Families and Nations, we are offering counseling in that area, because when these people have gone through that, these are permanent injuries that are very difficult to erase. They have it all their lives, but we can do something about it. We can counsel them to help them to live after that, because after that you feel so defiled. Just the way itself it is, you feel defiled, you feel dirty, you feel rejected, because the society thinks that anyone, even those that have undergone rape is by force. They didn't even, even that, they feel so rejected. They feel so like they're outcasts. How can the society help those people? Is to accept that this happened to them and help them to live on. Talk to them, try to give them hope that after that, if they talk about it, because the truth of the matter is that for them to start healing, they need to bring it out. So they need to disclose. They need to say, my dad raped me, my father, my uncle defiled me. I didn't know what was happening. Talk to a counselor. And I want to encourage people out there, if your child, if your son, your daughter has undergone such an act, please bring them forward for counseling. It is very important for them to undergo therapy. There is a process that can help them to come out and live a better life, because a life of pain, a life of, they also feel accused. Do you know that there are some girls in homes that have been abused sexually or actually defiled, and the parents or the people in the family have said, ndiwe unalengesa. They blame them.
Yes.
They blame them. So that is not good for them. And when they feel like that, then they feel everybody's justifying what that person did to them, which is wrong. So we need to help them to heal, and how we can do that is to start by hearing them. Let somebody they can confide in, listen to them, let them explain what happened, let them express themselves, let them cry it out. And they need to cry because it's painful. They need to cry it out. And when they cry, we start now trying to help them to heal, to try and get over it. It is never permanently erased, because this is a lifetime experience.
Very true. I'm seated listening, and the fact that there are some traditions out there that will support incest and some vices that are currently being conducted in our society, and there are mothers out there that will tell their children, say, ni batate bako stinga
mangisi. And the other thing is that when this act is being done, a lot of children are threatened with death. Children whose fathers have told them, chameni kuchitira nikukonda, ndiye kukulangiza that I love you. And so the child believes that. But then when the crime now gets exposed, the child starts saying that I was told like this, I was told like this. And now they say, now waona batate bako bazafa, bazapeleka kujeli. And even those mothers, I want to address specifically the mothers.
Yeah.
please, just imagine how you are setting up your daughter, who you are saying, if your father gets arrested, it means don't say semanje,
Yes.
watipaya. How dare you put a blame on the child for exposing an ill, exposing a vice like this? So I want mothers to take this message to themselves. A child has a right. And your child, the rights of your child are their rights. Your rights as a mother, and if you feel that you have got a right to have a husband for the rest of your life, even the one that defiles a child, I just want to tell you that the child's rights actually start where your husband's rights end. Yeah, so you don't say to anyone, me, I would rather have my husband, let the child die. I think that is evil. It is actually in its own a crime. And I want to repeat what I said in an interview, that those women who chose to surrender a child for the purposes of having a husband,
exchange of their husband,
and believing that they are Mrs. Somebody, they belong behind the bars. And nothing, even in the law, should justify their freedom. So children, as long as they are out of our wombs, they are human beings. They have their own rights. So we don't control who rapes them. We don't control the access to them as mothers. So it's wrong for any mother to say a child can be raped because she's my daughter and because the one who is raping her is her father. It is wrong.
Mrs. Mwila, there are homes where incest is currently happening. And perhaps because the mother is a career woman and she's busy, she's unable to tell. And sometimes it's because of the relationships that mothers share with their girl children or parents in general. Perhaps it couldn't be the father, maybe the uncle or the cousin they are keeping is having carnal knowledge with a child, but because of the relationship that they share with the mother, maybe it's that police criminal kind of relationship, and maybe yes, and maybe in some instances parents are just way too busy to sit down and have a conversation with their children. Perhaps you could advise such parents, and also maybe what are some of the signs that maybe parents should look out for if maybe there's incest that is going on in a home.
You know, when incest is happening in a home, it's actually a very, it's very, you really need to be tactful to discover it. Because in the home is where the hiding is top-notch. The man who is the defiler himself or the rapist, they would take so many precautions to hide. This, I'll tell you, I mean, I have counseled girls from very, very well-to-do families. Their fathers, their mothers, very well-to-do. They have all the money in the world. They have given the child everything, but they don't know that the child is being defiled by a guard at the gate of their home. The security guard is actually defiling or raping their children, and they don't know. So we need to understand that no matter what comfort we have given our children, we need to interrogate their well-being inside that comfort. When you buy your child a smartphone, when you give your child a television in her room, you know, and you've got a very good house, you are well-to-do, even, you know, the abuse of drugs is also prominent there, and parents don't know. I want to address you as a parent that your parenting style matters in the life of a child. And parenting techniques demand that you are in communication effectively with your child, regardless of what facilities are available. We have children who are being assigned a driver to take them to school, bring them back home, and take them again the following morning. Do you know that there are a lot of opportunities of defilement? Do you know that there are too many opportunities of a developing relationship between your children and those people? A driver, a houseboy, a security guard, even just the uncles and aunties around the children. So this is where now the question about parenting comes in. How much strategic or effective parenting are you giving your children? Let us realize that as parents, we have brought children into the world. Certain parents are just fathers and mothers, and these are people who bore the children. But parents are those people who, after bearing the children, have taken a step further to be in the lives of those children 24/7. You don't say, the child has got a driver, the child has got a smartphone, the child has got school paid for, the child has got a roof over their heads, they have got all the food they want, they can go and they've got a huge allowance, they can go and buy clothes. No, that is not parenting as per se. Parenting is actually understanding the interests of your child, the issues that your child is going through, listening to your child. Parents must listen to the children, even as far as relationships. I know girls who have come as I'm mentoring them. They've said, I have tried to talk to my mother about a relationship that I've been having, and my mother said, you are not supposed to have a relationship, period. And the matter closes there. That is wrong, because we need to realize that children are human beings. Girls and boys, they have feelings. And at a certain stage as they are developing, they need to interact with the opposite sex. The question is, as a parent, are you interested on who they are interacting with, how they are doing the interaction, where is the interaction leading? Because sometimes girls get abused because when they talk to their partner, they try to even start a conversation which will lead to discovering abuse. The parents close them up. They shut up the children. And so this is why it is very important. If you are a parent who is too busy, you are not ready to listen to issues of relationships to your children, find a mentor for them. Bring them to someone who can speak more and allow them to explain, to expose a lot of things that's happening in their lives. The fact that you are a mother and a father does not mean that you know everything and that what you tell your children is gospel truth. I know that in the past, in my time, I was born in the 60s. At the time I was born, my parents would tell me that they are going to buy a baby from ZCBC. And they came home with a baby, and I believed that.
We thought they buy kids in
Yeah, we thought they buy them. But today, I can't even tell my grandson that babies are bought, because he will tell me, no, Granny, you are lying. Babies are not born. So what I'm saying is that as parents, we are actually the first source of information for our children. Let us be honest, age appropriate to our children, talk about sex to them, talk about relationships, and allow them to talk to us. We, as fathers, let us be open even to girl children. Let us allow our daughters to talk to us about boys in a very positive manner. As a father, you are the first man that should talk to your daughter about men. You understand? So if a girl hears from the father that a boy can do this and that, she will take it as truth, and she will live her life believing what daddy told me. Daddy will tell you, you don't have to have sex at your age. It's wrong. It can amount to this, that. So you need to be able to interact with your children in that manner. As a mother, I should tell my son that women, girls are like this, like that. Age appropriacy is very important, but let us not allow our children to only hear about the 3-letter word in class or at the disco place or in the streets. We are killing them. We can start conversations at this stage in time, looking at the issues of defilement, looking about the issues of rape. I would say to a mother, to a father, it is okay to start sharing with your children sexual reproductive health information, age appropriate, in a certain way. Create a rapport. Start mentioning some of these things. Ask the children. You know, some children, they will come and say, Uncle so-and-so was telling me this. Go deeper. Find out what the conversation was for Uncle so-and-so to mention something like that to your daughter, to your son. Because the world has become completely different now. There's internet, there is Facebook, there's all these social media platforms. We have, the phones are accessible to our young people. Our children can access a phone. There are cartoons that are actually sharing sexual information, but we think it's a cartoon. But if you're a mother or a father who doesn't have time with your children, how are you going to know? And we have also assigned or designated our children, our child care, to the maid, to the houseboy, to the auntie, to the grandmother. We need to do better than that.
Talking about aunties, I don't mean to cut you short, ma'am.
Yeah.
there's issues where boys have equally encountered incest.
A lot.
And they've kept quiet about it. And I know some of them might be watching this podcast, but because you're a man or you're a boy, it's okay. I have come across a conversation back when I was in uni, just last year, not very long, where colleagues of mine would say, "Banti benzo sebenza popa nyumba banchito. Benzo kuza to come and touch my breast."
You see? So I want to say that we need to realize that these are long-lasting effects on people. A young boy who has undergone sexual abuse will be a very bad husband. First of all, he's not comfortable having sex with his wife. And the wife now is wondering, I came into this marriage and I was taught that sex is one of the benefits. You understand? And to make matters worse, in the bad traditional teaching, the wife is told never say no to sex. But if the husband is never asking for sex, what is happening next? So we need to understand that these are long-lasting effects on our children, on the boys. If a boy undergoes sexual abuse as a boy, the chances are that in his marriage, if he does manage to marry, he will be abusing his wife, who is an innocent person in the equation, because she doesn't know what happened to him. And sometimes it is because us as adults or the society around them have socialized men to be able to take any form of abuse as normal because they are powerful. There is no power in an emotional injury. No matter how much a man you can say you are, as long as you have emotionally been injured, it will affect your personality. It will affect your manhood. It will affect your masculinity. And you will end up applying the wrong power in the wrong way to the wrong people. For example, this wife I've just talked about, I've given you an example. She didn't know that the guy had undergone abuse. And I asked him, have you told your fiancé? He says, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to tell her. And I don't know how she's going to take it. But listen, if you are a young person, just know that whatever happened to you as a young person is going to affect your adulthood. And so sexual abuse of any form to a young man, to a young woman, must be disclosed and dealt with before they go into a permanent relationship. Why? Because it's going to affect the way the relationship goes. It's going to affect the way the wife or the husband treats the spouse. And as a counselor myself, as a marriage counselor, I never used to do it before. I never used to include this question. But now it's in our counseling package. Have you ever been sexually abused before? It's important to know. It's a confidential question to each of the two, to the spouse, to the male and the female spouse to be. But it's important because as counselors, our role is to help them to overcome some of the things they have been through, including verbal abuse in the home, where a mother calls a child chigalu.
And that's very common.
Exactly. Those are some of the things that people, they allow. It's okay. You know, these things affect children. And when the children grow up, it's upon them that they are such a valueless human being. And so it affects their ability to perform. It affects their abilities to love adequately or to receive love. So we need to understand that if we don't deal with them, the young men, the boys, if we don't deal with their abuse as children, we are actually endangering their lives. And so at Families and Nations, we offer this counseling. You have gone through this kind of thing and you have not told anyone. Sometimes it's difficult to tell somebody you know. Sometimes it's difficult to tell your parents or your daddies, your mummies, your sisters, your brothers. We will help you to break that news and help you to live a better life. Because remember, if you were abused at 5, and now you are getting married to a lifetime relationship, can you imagine being emotionally injured for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
And remember, that also affects the children that you are going to have. Why? Because the children are being born in a relationship where you are not even appreciating the process of childbearing. You are not appreciating the process of conceiving a child, because sex becomes an animal to you. And in the marriage,
like a problem.
Yes, and in the marriage, by the way, is where sex must be enjoyed, appreciated, and allowed. So if you are going in there because of past abuse, you are going in there injured, you are going in there with the wrong perception of sex, because if you were abused sexually, every sexual encounter is an abuse to you. So you need healing. Get counseling. Come for therapeutic conversations where your mind can be released. You can understand that it happened, it was not your fault. Especially if it was not your fault, it is not fair for you to go into a relationship which is going to be so bad for something that you never did intentionally.
Madam Judith, I'm honored to have had this conversation with you, and
thank you so much.
I wish we could continue, but in the interest of time, I will ask you to give your word of advice and encouragement to the person who's been abused before, who has undergone incest, would-be perpetrators of incest, because that's a reality that we cannot run away from.
Of course, yeah.
And of course, the young girl out there, perhaps you could encourage them on how to carry themselves in a better way. And I want to talk about marriage after this conversation.
I think marriage should be another subject of discussion.
We'll need to have you back once again. So please, your word of advice and encouragement to the people that have been watching.
I want to encourage first of all, I'll start with the parents or the adults. It could be a guardian, it could be a parent, whoever you are as an adult. Young people are our responsibility in a way. How they are existing, the fact that we brought them into this world means that we have a special responsibility over them. It is our responsibility to nurture them, to teach them, to explain to them what abuse is. Some of them don't know that abuse is abuse when it's happening, because someone has told them, this is how I love you, you know. Then coming to young people, I want to tell them that if you have been abused in any of the ways that we have explained, please come out and talk about it, because as a young person, this evil might overtake you and live as the paramount thing in your life. You may actually feel it's okay to be abused. And once you've been abused and you have accepted it as normal, your life will be full of abuse. Because even in your marriage, you can be abused. Your husband or your wife can abuse you, and you can tend to think it's okay. So I want to encourage you, if you have experienced abuse, if you are a girl, you have experienced sexual abuse within the family, especially under the guise of you are a cousin, you are a granddaughter, you are an aunt, you are a niece, and you have been told it's okay in our family or in our tradition. Know today that it is wrong, and you can get help, you can get counseling, and you need to run out of that space. I know some girls who are undergoing such abuse because the people that are abusing them are responsible for paying their school fees, for looking after them, for giving them a roof above their head. I want you to know that you can get out of there and still live a normal life. You can get somewhere else to stay. I think that we have got movements, we've got safe spaces. And once you disclose, you don't have to fear anyone. That person who is abusing you and tells you that if you leave this place, there's nowhere for you to go, that is not true. So feel free to expose them. The law protects you. You can talk to someone and still live a fulfilling life as a girl, as a boy, as a woman, as a man.
Mrs. Mwila, before I let you go, I wouldn't want to deprive people who would want to find you as Families and Nations. Perhaps somebody would want counseling. So perhaps you could give them your handles or how they can get through to Families and Nations.
We have a Facebook page. We also have counseling online, and they can call a number 096 777 6883. They can get online counseling on that number. We do schedule counseling sessions, but they can also find us physically. Our office is on Carroll Road in Sedeb House next to Workmen's Compensation. Our organization has got counseling services there during the day, and we can also schedule counseling sessions over weekends. We do that. As a parent, if you have a child who has undergone abuse and you have failed as a parent to break through, and this is an area where it's very common that parents fail to get to the point of how the child got abused because of this socialization that we talked about. Some children don't disclose, and some parents also don't want to disclose. I want to tell children and parents that both of you actually can reach out to Families and Nations and get help. The parents of abused children, they need counseling as well. The children of abused parents also need counseling. And it's a lot of things, and that's why as Families and Nations is a broad spectrum. We look at all the angles of family and how abuse can be dealt with. Kindly reach out. You can SMS on 096 777 6883. Send a message and we'll get back to you. Or you can actually express yourself on that line via SMS or WhatsApp, and we'll still try to reach out. But also you can schedule an appointment and come through any of our counseling premises. We'll attend to you.
Mrs. Mwila, thank you so much
I really
for
appreciate
making time
been
to,
here. And I would like really to have helped somebody out there.
Thank you so much. I bet people have been helped.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you made time to come through.
Thank you
of
so
course,
much.
we have pending discussions.
Yes, many more. Thank you
we have
so
more
much.
pending discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the NGOCC podcast. And on today's episode, we're discussing a very sensitive issue, which is incest. Most of you, some of you have encountered it in one way or another. Perhaps we didn't know that what was being done to us was actually a crime. Please feel free to come out in the open. You can also message NGOCC. We'll definitely assist you. We will get you to Families and Nations. Please just come through to our offices or premises. Wherever you are, just reach out and, just break the silence of incest. It is not a tradition. It is not a norm. It doesn't heal. There's no help that it does to anybody. So please, let us not indulge in incest. Let's not be the perpetrators. Let's not encourage it. Especially to our mothers out there, please look out for your children. Build a rapport like she has stressed on. Ensure that you are a mother that is going to help your child out there, not a scary parent, because sometimes we get scared of our parents. My name is Chivesa Cecilia Mungulove. We have been discussing incest. This is the NGOCC podcast. Thank you for watching.